What does it mean to compare? What does it mean to summarize? When I'm answering paper 2, question 2, what are the skills that I need to show? How do I really summarize the differences between two sources? In this video, I'm going to give you a breakdown of how you can get a grade 9 in paper 2, question 2, and get those full 8 marks that are available so that you are able to summarize successfully. So, if we look at this question, so I've shared the extract in my description, and we're focusing on comparing between source A and source B. So you should spend about 10 minutes on this question. I would say you need at least a paragraph on source A and a paragraph on source B where you focus on the differences. Now let's carefully read the extract. Question: the effects of the weather on people in both sources are very different. He used details from both sources to write a summary of the different ways people are affected by the weather. Now, I've highlighted this bit because you need to compare the differences, but it's very specific because you need to talk about how the people are affected by the weather, not what we see about the weather, but how are the people affected by the weather. So this is a very subtle difference. And I've seen so many responses as an examiner where students always don't focus on the specific differences. So once you've established the differences, it's important to think about what do these differences show about the way people are affected by the weather. This is where your inference comes in. So it's always important to highlight the key words as you're getting ready to answer the question so that you take away any doubt with your answer and you go with your best ideas. So remember to read the sources which I've put out in the description because that will give you an overview of what you need to achieve. Now, if we look at these quotes from source A, we already know the question. So in terms of what can we infer from these quotes? So if we look at the first one, shivering with the cold, so kid left to find some extra clothing. Maybe not the best quote to use, but I can see that the conditions are really horrible in terms of needing extra clothing. It's very severe, it's very detrimental. But the second quote shows me that it's about survival. They're fighting for their lives. So it's a matter of life and death. So these conditions are horrible and no one would wish to be in these conditions. Doesn't matter what type of experience they've had in terms of journeying into different places and going on different expeditions. Doesn't matter what experience that a person might be in, but they will still be fighting for their life. And this is what we see in source A. If we compare that to source B, it says, we had the loveliness and utter purity of new fallen snow. It's important to establish the difference straight away. Yes, there's a greater sense of positivity with the way that they view the weather. They feel as though they're content. But despite that, it says, my beard froze. So we could draw inferences from that as well. But here, where it says the loveliness, utter purity of new fallen snow, this idea of contentment, this is very important to think about. Let's look at a model answer. And as we're looking through this answer, we're going to establish very clearly what is it that gets this answer a grade 9. What are the skills that they're demonstrating? And if you think about what we said earlier, they need to establish the differences and the different ways people are affected by the weather. This is huge and important. So we need to see how is it that they establish their inferences as well. So let's read it. And as we're reading it, I'm going to select some key skills, ideas that they're demonstrating. Source A illustrates the devastating consequences of a sudden storm on Mount Everest, where 30 climbers found themselves trapped in the perilous death zone, exposed and fighting for their lives. So they've established a clear point and they've embedded their quotes. Among them, 3 Indian climbers are described as stranded, exhausted, and with their oxygen supplies running out, indicating how the ferocity of the storm took them by surprise. That's a key indicator as well. Shows really good comprehension from the student. Perhaps even more striking, so now they're layering it. 2 commercial expeditions were strung out between the South Col and the summit, emphasizing that the storm's impact extended to recreational climbers and professional operators who typically prioritize the safety of their clients. So now we're beginning to get some inferences. So it's talking about the impact of the storm, which isn't mentioned directly, which requires a bit of thinking, and this is how we get our inferences across. And the student then builds upon this. This highlights how the storm's severity overwhelmed even those who were prepared. That's a key point. So this storm takes no victims, culminating in 8 tragic fatalities. Again, a key indicator of the severity of the storm as it's causing death, the greatest single day loss of life ever recorded on the peak. So we learn from this paragraph the detrimental effects of the storm, how it's leaving those who are there fighting for their life. They're stranded, they haven't got much oxygen supplies left. And again, it doesn't matter how experienced or what level the climbers are at, they are still being harmed by this storm. So this has a very high level perceptive inferences in my opinion. If we go to source B, in contrast, source B describes a far less harrowing event, a heavy snowfall in 19th century London. So straight away they established the difference in source B, and they clarify with very few words what it's about. And again, I like the way they've opened because it's very clear, it's straight to the point. And you need to be straight to the point and precise with these answers because of the lack of time that you have. While people bundle up in thick coats to keep warm, the snow poses no immediate threat to life. Again, is that a difference? Yes, that is. Even a homeless girl sleeping on a step is described as cold as a frog rather than suffering severe hypothermia, so she's safe despite the cold around her. Most people remain indoors, and those who do venture out endure relatively minor discomforts like frozen beards, headaches, or cold fingers. Overall, the weather in source B is an inconvenience rather than a danger. That's the inference again, with people maintaining a degree of control over their circumstances. Again, another inference and another difference. This starkly contrasts with source A, where the storm reveals the climber's vulnerability and is catastrophic in its impact. So here, they wrap up with a conclusion as to how source A and source B are different, and they elaborate on the differences. So what we see here is the inference is developed to a perceptive level. The quotes have been embedded. The points are very clear, very precise, and this will get you a grade 9. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you benefited from it. Make sure to like and subscribe and continue going through my paper 2 series where I will go through every single question, showing you examples of what you should be doing in order to get a grade 9. Thank you for watching and see you next time.